Most people quit when things get hard, not because they're weak, not because they lack talent, because their brain sends one signal and they obey it instantly. Stop. It's too hard. You're done. Navy SEALs get that same signal, same brain, same biology, same pain. They just don't listen. David Goggins failed twice before completing it on his third attempt with a broken foot, stress fractures, and pneumonia. He didn't have superhuman pain tolerance. He had a system for overriding his own brain. Marcus Luttrell survived alone in the mountains of Afghanistan for 4 days with a broken back, multiple gunshot wounds, and no food. He wasn't born different. He was trained differently. The difference isn't physical, it's cognitive. Navy SEALs have a 4-step mental override system that shuts down the quitting signal before it becomes an action. Psychologists have studied it for decades. The military refined it over thousands of hours of the most brutal training on Earth, and nobody teaches it to civilians until now. By the end of this video, you will never approach a hard task the same way again. The signal will come. You just won't obey it anymore. Chapter 1. The 40% Rule. You think you've hit your limit? You haven't. You're at 40%. This isn't motivation talk. This is documented military psychology. When your brain tells you it's done, your body has used approximately 40% of its actual capacity. The other 60% is locked behind a biological safety mechanism your brain installed to protect you from genuine danger. Your brain is a liar, a well-meaning liar, but a liar. Navy SEAL instructors call this the performance reserve. It exists because your ancestors needed emergency fuel for survival situations. A lion appears. You need to run faster than you've ever run in your life. Your brain needed to keep something in reserve for that moment. The problem? You're not being chased by a lion. You're studying for an exam. You're building a business. You're doing a workout. And your brain is still hoarding 60% of your capacity like a paranoid survivalist. Psychologist Martin Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania spent decades studying what separates people who push through from people who collapse. His conclusion? It's not talent, not physical ability, not intelligence. It's the belief about whether the discomfort is permanent or temporary. People who quit believe the pain is permanent. This is always, and it will never end. People who push through believe the pain is temporary. This is right now, and it will pass. That single cognitive reframe is the difference between 40% and 100%. Your version is simple. Every time your brain sends the stop signal, say one sentence out loud or in your head. I am at 40%. There is more. That's it. No motivation speech, no hype, just a factual correction to a lying brain. But knowing you have more is only half the fix. Because even if you believe you have reserve capacity, you still need a system to access it. That's where Chapter 2 comes in. Chapter 2. The 4 pillars of mental toughness. Most people think mental toughness is personality. You either have it or you don't. You're born tough or you're born soft. Wrong. The U.S. Navy commissioned research to understand exactly why some candidates quit BUD/S and others don't. They expected physical differences, bigger guys lasting longer, stronger athletes surviving. That's not what they found. The candidates who quit weren't weaker. They were mentally unequipped. They had no framework for processing extreme discomfort. So, when it arrived, they had nothing to grab onto. The candidates who passed had 4 specific cognitive tools running simultaneously. Psychologist Eric Potterat identified them after years embedded with SEAL training programs. He called them the 4 pillars. Pillar 1, goal setting. Not big goals, micro goals, brutally small targets. SEALs in hell. We don't think about surviving 5 days. They think about surviving until the next meal. Sometimes just until the next evolution. Sometimes just the next 10 seconds. Your brain can handle 10 seconds of anything. It cannot handle 5 days of everything. When the task feels impossible, break it into a unit so small your brain cannot argue with it. Not finish the chapter, read this paragraph. Not complete the project. Write 1 sentence. Not run 5 miles. Run to that tree. Micro goals eliminate the horizon. And the horizon is what makes people quit. Pillar 2, arousal control. Your body has a stress response. Heart rate spikes, breathing goes shallow, tunnel vision sets in. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making part of your brain, goes partially offline. This is called the amygdala hijack, and it makes everything harder than it actually is. SEALs are trained in tactical breathing. 4 counts in, hold 4 counts, 4 counts out, hold 4 counts. Box breathing. This one technique activates the parasympathetic nervous system, drops cortisol, and brings the prefrontal cortex back online in under 90 seconds. You can't think clearly when your brain thinks you're dying. Tactical breathing tells your biology the threat isn't real. Your brain calms, your capacity returns. Pillar 3, self-talk. Your internal voice is either your coach or your executioner. There is no neutral setting. SEALs are trained to monitor internal dialogue the way a programmer monitors code. If the code is broken, the output is broken. Negative self-talk is broken code. Research from sports psychologist Antonis Hatzigeorgiadis confirmed that instructional self-talk, specific directive statements like stay loose, breathe, one step, measurably improves performance under stress. Not motivational statements, not hype, instructions. Your brain responds to commands better than encouragement. Stop telling yourself you can do it. Start telling yourself exactly what to do next. Pillar 4. Visualization. Before every difficult evolution, SEALs mentally rehearse the scenario, not the victory, the process. Every step, every obstacle, every moment of discomfort, and how they will respond to it. Research from the Cleveland Clinic found that mental rehearsal activates the same neural pathways as physical practice. Athletes who revisualized specific movements showed measurable muscle activation. Your brain cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined event and a real one. SEALs don't just prepare physically. They pre-experience the difficulty mentally, so that when it arrives, it feels familiar. Familiar is survivable. Surprise is what breaks people. Hit subscribe before you move on. This is the part most channels skip. It's the most important part. Chapter 3. Stress inoculation. Comfort is making you mentally weak, and you chose it. Every time you avoid a hard conversation, you make the next hard conversation harder. Every time you skip the difficult workout, you make the next difficult workout feel more impossible. Every time you take the easy path, your brain recalibrates its baseline for what's tolerable. You are not resting, you are shrinking. SEALs use a principle called stress inoculation. Deliberate, repeated, voluntary exposure to controlled discomfort, not random suffering. Systematic, progressive overload of your mental tolerance threshold. Psychiatrist Dennis Charney at Mount Sinai Medical School spent 20 years studying resilience in humans. He identified the single most consistent predictor of mental toughness across hundreds of subjects. It was the history of facing and overcoming adversity voluntarily, not suffering that happened to them, suffering they chose. Every time you voluntarily choose difficulty, your brain updates its threat assessment. This was hard before. I survived. Threat level reduced. Next time the same difficulty triggers a smaller stress response. You become progressively harder to break. Here is your stress inoculation protocol. Pick one thing every single day that is uncomfortable and do it deliberately. Cold shower in the morning. Hard conversation you've been avoiding. Extra 30 minutes on the task after your brain says stop. The specific activity matters less than the consistency of choosing discomfort voluntarily. Navy SEAL instructors have a phrase they repeat constantly during BUD/S. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. This is not a motivational slogan. It is a neuroscience protocol disguised as military culture. But here's the problem though. Most people try stress inoculation for 3 days and quit because they have no system for managing the moment when everything in them is screaming to stop. That's what Chapter 4 fixes. Chapter 4, the override protocol. The quitting moment has a shape. It always looks the same. A physical or mental sensation arrives, discomfort, pain, boredom, fear, frustration. Your brain generates a thought. This is too hard. Quit. Your body begins to comply, slowing down, shutting off, looking for the exit. Most people experience this sequence as automatic and inevitable, like a reflex. Sensation arrives, quitting follows. It is not a reflex, there is a gap between the sensation and the action. And in that gap is where SEALs live. Psychologist Viktor Frankl identified this gap from the most extreme possible environment, Nazi concentration camps. He observed that even in conditions of total external control, the one freedom that could never be taken was the choice of how to respond to a situation. Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is your power. SEALs are trained to expand that gap, to stretch the space between sensation and response until a conscious decision can be inserted. Here is the 4-step override protocol used in SEAL mental training. Step 1. Name it. The moment discomfort arrives, say it out loud or internally. This is discomfort. This is the signal. Naming the sensation activates the prefrontal cortex, and interrupts the automatic quitting sequence. Research from UCLA psychologist Matthew Lieberman confirmed that labeling negative emotions reduces amygdala activation immediately. Step 2. Locate it. Where exactly in your body is the sensation? Get specific. Is it your chest, your legs, your stomach? Specificity converts a vague, overwhelming threat into a localized, manageable physical experience. Your brain stops catastrophizing. Step 3. Breathe through it. 4 counts in. 4 counts hold. 4 counts out. 1 cycle. This is not relaxation. This is a tactical interruption of the stress cascade. You are buying your prefrontal cortex time to come back online. Step 4. Give it a time frame. Tell yourself exactly how long you will continue. Not forever. 10 more minutes. 3 more pages. 5 more reps. Your brain can negotiate with a deadline. It cannot negotiate with infinity. 4 steps. Name it. Locate it. Breathe through it. Give it a time frame. Run this protocol every single time the quitting signal arrives. Within 2 weeks, it becomes automatic. The gap expands permanently. You stop being a person who quits and become a person who decides. That is the difference between you and a Navy SEAL. Not genetics, not pain tolerance, not willpower. A protocol. The problem. You now have 4 weapons: the 40% rule, the 4 pillars, stress inoculation, the override protocol. SEALs use all 4 simultaneously, every single day, in training and in combat. It runs in the background automatically because they have drilled it into their neurology through thousands of repetitions. That automaticity is the gap between knowing this and being this. By the way, I put all 4 of these into a 1-page SEAL mental override protocol: the 40% reframe card, the 4 pillars checklist, the stress inoculation tracker, and the override protocol steps. Link in the description, free. But here's the problem though. Mental toughness without a sharp memory is still a disadvantage. You can push through anything and still forget everything. The brain that never quits still needs to remember. That's why I made this video breaking down the exact 4 protocol memory system used by Special Forces soldiers. They don't just push through, they retain everything. It's almost unfair. Watch it next.